Hey guys, today we're going to have a look at the Bogner Helios Eclipse in detail. This amazing amp has just arrived, and it is a 3-channel all-tube hand-wired amp from the amazing people at Bogner in the States. Sounds amazing. So if you've seen my other video on the Ecstasy, I went through each knob, each button, each switch, because there's a lot of flexibility and complexity to that amp. Now this one's not quite as complex. There's not quite as many buttons and switches, but there are a few more than normal. So I'm going to go through those today and check out everything on the amp, give you a chance to hear what they do, how they work, how they interact. So on the front, we'll have a look at the instruction manual in a second, but on the front you've got the standard controls for most amps, so bass, middle and treble, which is shared by channel 2 and 3, the dirty channels. Channel 1, the clean channel, does not have an EQ section, but it does have a voicing switch, what they call a mode switch. So we'll get to that in just a second. Then we've got volume 2 and volume 3, gain 2 and gain 3, again for the dirties. Now all of these little switches here are for channels 2 and 3, except that one there for the clean. So yeah, like I said, we'll have a look at these in a moment. On the back we've got a master presence and a master bottom control, which as you would guess controls the bottom end. We've got a thump switch, which sort of makes the lower mids a little bit more thumpier, a little bit more punchier. And we also have a variac switch on the back, which again Bogner has done with the Ecstasy, good old 100B. It's interesting. I think for me personally, this sort of feels like the next stage of the Ecstasy. It's a 3-channel amp, it's got the variac, we've got the switches, the EQ switches. It just sort of feels like a new updated Ecstasy. Ecstasy is a classic amp, absolutely nothing wrong with it, it's awesome. So I'd love to know what was going on in their head, you know, rather than updating the Ecstasy. Maybe we just take it to the next step, and the next step is the Helios. That's just my thought anyway. Anyway, without further ado, let's have a look at the amp. So as I said, we've got a clean channel. We'll start on the clean channel. And so the mode switch has 3 settings. N is in the neutral, and we'll start with neutral. And just by the way, keeping all the knobs and switches neutrals or 12 o'clock position as a starting point. So we've got it in the neutral position. Then we've got B to the left, which gives you a brighter tone, and S to the right, which is more of a mid-scooped tone. They're saying it's a little bit more like the Fender Blackface amps. So let's have a listen. So that's neutral, we'll put it on the B. Back to neutral. And then to the S. And so you will notice a few volume changes as we engage some of these switches. That's perfectly normal. That's just the way the circuitry works there. So look, there's not a lot to say about the clean channel. That's pretty much it. It does have a really interesting feature on it though. And this works universally on all the channels. The effects loop can be used as a boost. So what I've done is put a patch cable between the send and the return. Hit the effects loop and you get an instant volume boost, depending on where you set your master level, but I'll demonstrate. Effects loops in. And effects loop out. So yeah, nice little feature there, I like it. It's a good little trick. All right, onto the dirty channels. So the dirty channels, we have 2 of them, and they can be voiced differently. Even though we've got a shared EQ section, the buttons and switches will definitely make them sound really, really different. We have bright switches, or pre-EQs I should say. Either neutral, left is a little bit like a plexi, and right is what they're describing as just a slightly more brighter, more open sound. And then we also have a 3-position voicing switch. So we have hot, which is what it's currently on at the moment. So hot is sort of the default standard mode, and sounds like the 2nd channel of the original Helios, so if anyone's familiar with that. Then we have an 80s mode, which gives the amp more compression, or the preamp section more compression, and again we'll get a bit of a volume drop as a result. And then finally we've got an Eclipse mode, which is berserko. It's 2 extra gain stages, it's over the top, yeah. You'll hear that in a second. So look, let's start with the pre-EQ switch on channel 2. Just got the gain running about 12 o'clock, so nothing fancy. But plenty of gain there. So look, just for today, I'm going to turn it right up, just so you can hear it. So yeah, more than enough gain on tap. Let's have a look at the EQ just before we get started, sorry. So EQ all the way up, so treble. It gets a little bit bright. Treble all the way down. Mids all the way up. And mids all the way down. And finally bass all the way up. And bass all the way down. I'll put them all back to 12 o'clock. And let's have a look at this pre-EQ. So we're currently on N for neutral. And we'll put it on to the left, which is a little bit more of the plexi sound. Just, you know, plexis can be a little bit bright. And then to the right, which is more of that open voicing they're saying. We'll put that back to neutral. Yeah, personally I like the neutral, that's just me. And then of course again we've got the effects loop boost, which works really well nicely on this. That would work really well live, just give you a nice lift. So yeah, very impressed, nice. The 3rd channel on the Helios is what they call fatter. So use this channel in either hot or 80s mode if you want the tones sounding like the original Helios. So let's start with channel 3 in the hot mode. It is in the hot mode. The pre-EQ is in neutral, it's disengaged. So channel 2 and channel 3 can sound really similar. You can voice them almost identical because you do have all the same switches and knobs and things. But so for today, we'll just quickly turn up the gain. Check the pre-EQ, so just to the left, the plexi, and to the right, and back to the neutral. And then we've got got, yeah, the currently in the hot mode, which I'm liking, 80s mode, so we'll get the volume drop. And finally the Eclipse mode, and this is pretty crazy. It is berserko, yeah, it's funny. Anyway, so look, that's all the front of the amp. Let's have a listen to the back of the amp. The first thing I'm going to start with is the master section. So we've got, we do have a master control on the effects return, but look, you've already heard that, so I won't do that again. We've got a presence and a bottom control. They're currently both at 12 o'clock, just to sort of give you some insight into what they sound like. I'm going to turn the presence all the way up, just so you can hear what that does. And we'll stick with channel 2 just because that's where we're going to spend, or where I spend most of my time anyway. So I'm definitely getting sort of hot rodded plexi sort of sound. It's almost sort of hot rodded. It's definitely got a Marshall DNA, I think, to it. There's a lot of brightness available here. Yeah, there's some very familiar sorts of tones for me. So look, that's the presence. I'll turn the presence all the way down. I'm going to turn the bottom all the way up. Now, I just will say this is really dependent on your speaker cabinet. So you would tailor this to your speakers and how many you had. Not sure how well it's going to work with IRs, but we'll give it a shot. Hopefully you can hear what it does. So that's the bottom all the way up. I'm going to put the bottom back to 12 o'clock now, and this time I'm going to engage this thump switch. Now, the thump switch is what they say is sort of exaggerates the sort of the mids, the lower mids on the sound. So look, let's take a listen to that. Punch. Sorry, I keep calling it thump. It's a punch switch. So yeah, I'm liking that one. And the final switch on the back is the good old Variac. So Bogner have lots of experience doing this before. Goes back to the old 100Bs, 100A amps, the old Ecstasy, the first run, where they did have a optional Variac switch. So this is an up-down switch. Some pictures online if you want to see it. And it does actually takes the voltage down around about 15%. It literally, it's not a simulation. If anyone's going to do this, you know, Reinhold and the Bogner gang have definitely got the skills to do this stuff. So it is a real Variac. So anyway, normal. And we will engage the Variac. Again, I think it probably needs a little bit of volume, but I definitely notice it being a little bit more spongier in the sound. So anyway, there you go. Hopefully that gives you some really good insights into the Bogner Helios Eclipse. They are doing really well. They're very, very popular at the moment for obvious reasons. Heaps of flexibility, great sounds, everything you want. So hopefully that helps.